I'm holding a transmission vacuum modulator. This one's typical of those that were installed on many Mercedes-Benz from 1981 up into the early to mid 1990s. And Mercedes has gone through a couple of changes because these can be a little bit problematic. Remember, the vacuum modulator is what controls the quality of your shift. It can affect shift timing, but it primarily controls how soft your shifts are and how quickly the transmission does shift. So if your transmission's jerking when it shifts, or when it shifts it kind of flares up and slips a little bit, it could be this part right here. There's other issues that it could also be, but this is the first thing you want to suspect. So the modulator, this one here is the newest upgrade from Mercedes-Benz. This is an OEM part. We just got in a new stock of these just this week, and I want to show you and explain the difference between the new upgraded modulator and the old original style that you see here. The samples I have here are referred to as the green modulator. Obviously they're green in color. These were used from 1981 up until early to late 1984, and then it changed to the black modulator. So the color relates to the year, although the upgrades and what I'm going to show you with this new one will also apply to the black modulators, which were used from about 1986 up until 1993. So let's talk about the original. Okay, the modular housing has a vacuum diaphragm inside, and when vacuum is applied, it actuates this plunger, which pushes in on a component inside the transmission, and that changes the pressure. Now notice how big this push rod is. There's a lot of plastic mass to it, and what they found over time was that this would either lengthen or shorten due to age and heat, or when it got extremely cold. So this was a problem here. The other thing was they just were kind of touchy to adjust. You had to pull this cap off, you had to pull the pin out and rotate it to adjust pressures. And if this cap leaks, then the modulator is going to leak, okay? And sometimes this cap would get old and harden, and it would get rotten and crack. And even though it was secured on the end here, if you were to leak out of this cap, it would affect a modulator performance on the transmission. Okay, so now enter the upgrade. Notice the difference. Let's take a look at the difference here. Notice this is quite a bit different, much less plastic mass, and a more direct contact with the modulator there. So this is less prone to expansion and contraction. Once again, if the length changes on this rod here, it's actually called the thrust pin. If it changes, it's going to affect how your transmission shifts. The other thing is they changed the way the adjustments are made. You still use a pin, you use a T-pin here to adjust the pressure, and when you get the pressure close, you can snap this cap on. The cap has to be sealed tightly, once again, for this not to leak, but it has a much better O-ring seal and a much better sealing surface than this old rubber cap that tended to crack. If you adjust this in the kind of mid-range, you can actually do fine-tune adjustments on the modulator by rotating this cap lever without having to remove the rubber cap here and pulling the T-pin out, as you saw in the earlier version. Once again, a T-pin is still used to adjust the pressure on the transmission. And a lot of people will think, oh, I can just kind of move this around until the transmission feels good. No, that's not the way you adjust these, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later. But once again, you can see the T-pin is moved to adjust the proper pressure, modulation pressure, and then this cap snaps on and locks in that T-pin. It keeps it from moving. But if it's put on properly, you can do fine adjustments without removing the cap. So that's a real plus. I'm really excited about this. They also changed the innards. It has a more responsive vacuum response. And I think all in all, you'll find if you're having what I would consider minor problems with shift in your transmission, the upgraded modulator may help. Along with this new modulator upgrade that we provide, I also have some PDF download instructions that'll show you how to install this. Now, the instructions just are going to teach you how to take the old modulator out, how to put the new modulator in, and how to get this cap on properly. This is going to be a little tricky. Getting the cap on in the right position so that you can make fine-tune adjustments later on is not as easy as it might appear. Now, on the older models, particularly the older 617 turbo diesel transmissions, some of the transmissions that were in the early to mid 80s, I do have some other kits available. I have a manual that I've written on the turbo diesel transmission, how to set timing and adjustment and so on. Once again, if it's not the modulator, it could either be the vacuum going to the modulator, how that vacuum is being supplied. It could be the fact that the modulator itself is out of adjustment. It could also be something wrong internally in the transmission. Remember, all transmission shift problems are not modulator related. So please don't buy a modulator thinking that's going to solve all your transmission problems. But it's considering the cost, this isn't all that expensive. And if you do it yourself, you can put this modulator in and you can actually see if that improves your transmission. Particularly, folks, if some transmission shop is telling you that you need a new or rebuilt transmission and your transmission is still going forward, still going into reverse, all it's doing is jerking or slipping a little bit, please do not go get a new or rebuilt transmission until you do some diagnostics. You may have to do it yourself. And we have those resources on my website at Mercedessource.com. But I'd encourage you, it'll be less than $100 to put this in yourself, and it's worth a chance. Change the modulator, get the modulator adjustment pressure right, and then see how the transmission shifts. If it's slipping a lot, you may have worn clutch packs in the transmission and it may not be repairable. You may need a rebuilt transmission. I can't believe how many transmissions have been replaced over the years when they really didn't need replacement. So, owner beware, be willing to take on some of this work yourself, particularly transmission work, and you can save thousands of dollars. So be sure and check out our resources at Mercedessource.com. Just put your year and model and transmission in the search box and it will take you to these modulators and other issues related to transmission shifting.